Right. Okay. So welcome you all to the first day of our workshop, and what we are going to do today is simply we will walk through the basics of Python, right? And since now this workshop is actually we are going to discuss about machine learning from the very beginning, right? But said that we are not going to start implementing or doing things in machine learning from the first day onwards. We have to create our background, and we will set up the foundation first, and then on the third day of the workshop only we are going to move on to the machine learning implementations, right? So by the way, I'm Takshila and Takshila Tilakanayaka. So I'm currently working as an assistant lecturer in a university, as well as I'm currently following my MPhil as well. And I have been conducting workshops and classes and courses related to machine learning, related to Python, deep learning, neural networks, AI field, like for 4 years now. And currently I'm currently involved in several research, right? So I'm currently doing several research with machine learning and deep learning, and also as a so I'm doing some research projects. I have involved with projects and research, as well as I'm doing these kind of workshops in several institutes and free workshops sometimes in universities as well, right? So that's pretty much everything about me. And I think all of you are here, right? So you are from University of Kelaniya, and I had a discussion with the student association, and I got to know about your backgrounds, and some of you are in first year, I mean second year, third year, right? So no matter, this is for all the beginners, right? So don't worry if you have any knowledge about Python, or if you don't have any knowledge about machine learning. Don't worry, this will be a beginner's workshop. That means no need to have any kind of a knowledge. So we will quickly, move through the basics and get our foundation done, and thereafter from the third day onwards, we can uh, move on to machine learning implementations, right? And so each day the sessions will be, the 5 sessions, all of these sessions are interactive sessions, right? So that means I will be asking you questions, and also if you have any question, I'm quite happy to answer them. So that's how I like to conduct these kind of workshops, since otherwise it's get boring, right? So I don't know what you are doing, whether you are watching a film, whether you are kind of having your meal. It's fine, have your meal and do whatever you want, but participate in the workshop. And the thing is, expect from you what I expect from you is to be interactive. So if you have any doubt or if you have any concern, even in Sinhala or even in English, it's fine. So I can understand Sinhala. So you can always ask questions from Sinhala, or you can use the chat, right? You can use the chat here, chat available here. And the other thing is, you can just unmute your mic and then ask the questions if you have any, right? So what I wanted to say is, I'm quite happy with answer. You ask questions, right? So then I can answer them, and that's how we can get the most out of this workshop, right? So it won't be interactive. Otherwise, I don't know what's the level of you, since I can't get the feedback from you, the facial expressions, the body language, so I can't read them. So I can't get you a facial expression. So if it is a face-to-face lecture, I can see whether you understand this or not, right? In that case, I can explain it again. But in this kind of online, so we have pros and cons in online education. The one negative point is that we can't get the facial expressions. So sometimes if you can't understand, you are going to miss it. So the best thing is, if you can't understand anything, I'm always happy to answer your questions, clarify your doubts. So please ask if there is any question, right? මොකක් හරි තියනවා නම් අහන්න නිකන් ඔහේ බලාගෙන ඉන්න එපා. නැත්නම් ඊට පස්සේ මේක තේරෙන්නේ නැහැ කියලා ලීව් වෙලා යන්න එපා, right? මොකද හොඳ chance එකක් ඔයාට මේ දේවල් cover කරගන්න හම්බෙලා තියෙන්නේ, right? So use that, and if you can't understand, just don't leave. Just be there and get it clarified, right? So I'm quite happy to explain the same thing again and again, right? Okay, so Yeah. So all the sessions will be 2-hour session. So I think we get started now. Now, day one today, the basic thing is now this workshop will be focusing on the practical implementation, right? So not only the theory. Yes, we will cover the theory of machine learning, classification, regression, those kind of topics. We will go through the theories in deep, and as well as we will be implementing practical applications, right? And we will be doing projects. We will be implementing projects. So that means we are going to do practical coding here, right? Therefore, we have to have a coding skill. So I hope that you all have followed some kind of module in your university, right? Related to programming, right? So that's something obvious. I mean, it can be C, C++, Java, anything. No need to be Python. But in the day one, what we are going to do is, since all our machine learning implementations are done, the practicals are done using Python, we are going to walk through the basics of Python in the first day, right? The basics of Python, and get familiarized with the Python programming language and get familiarized with the environment. So we will be doing just Python, the basics of Python today, right? So if you have the Python basic knowledge, it's fine. So you can refresh your knowledge from here. So I'm going to go walk you through each and everything. So in that manner, you can get the, if you have the basic knowledge, you can refresh your knowledge. If you don't have any kind of knowledge in Python, that's also fine, since we are going to start everything from very beginning. And day two, that means next week, what we are going to do is we will walk through Python modules, like some contributed modules, some external modules, some inbuilt modules as well. I mean, what I mean by module is simply a library. So if you know about libraries in other programming language, Python module or module in Python is similar to a library in other programming languages, right? So we will discuss about inbuilt libraries in Python, and we will discuss about some external libraries like third-party and contributed libraries like Numpy, Matplotlib, OpenCV. So these are some kind of helping or assisting libraries for our implementation, right? So that's why we are going to discuss about that in the second day. So then first and second day, we will be creating the background, right? So we cover the things that we need for our practical implementation. So as I mentioned, this is simply like a practical oriented workshop. So we are doing practical, not only the theories, right? But third day onwards, we are going to move on to theories and get to know about machine learning, the supervised machine learning. And then we will be discussing about algorithm called k-nearest neighbor. And then thereafter, we will be implementing practical applications in machine learning from third day onwards. So first and second day, we gather the foundation knowledge in order to do the implementation from third day onwards, right? So then the fourth day, single character recognition app we will be creating. And fifth day, finally, we will see how we can create a website and how we can deploy or how we can integrate a machine learning model in a website or a mobile application in order to get prediction. So, I mean, I have designed this simply to like from A to Z. That means, okay, based on the theory, how to get the problem analyzed and how to train a machine learning algorithm and how to evaluate the machine learning algorithm, and finally how to output it as a product in a mobile application or a web application, right? So that's why I told you that this is a kind of a practical oriented program, right? A workshop. We are from the very beginning, right? So from the data set creation, right? From the machine learning algorithm training, testing, evaluation, optimization. So we will do everything from everything step by step. And finally, at the final step, we will see how we can simply deploy or integrate this in a real world product like a web application or a mobile application. So a full like life cycle, right? So life cycle of a machine learning algorithm. So we will go through each and everything. So very good experience you will get, right? And the other thing is that I'm expecting something from you as well, right? That means each day. So I hope that I can provide. I'm recording this session, so I hope that I can provide you this recorded video, right? So don't think, okay, anyway, I'm going to get the recorded video. I'm not sure whether you are going to get the recorded video. I have discussed it with the organizers. But anyway, I think probably you can get the recorded video, but don't misuse it. That means don't think, okay, anyway we are going to get the recorded video, so no need to attend to the live lectures. We can watch a movie in the Sunday noon, right? Don't think like that, since that's not going to happen, right? So if you like, okay, if you are going to see the, if you are going to think, okay, I'm going to watch the recorded video late and get everything clarified and watch the film now, no, it's not going to happen, since like watching a lecture is not like watching a film, right? So watching a film is quite happy, so we are quite interested on that, so we can watch the 2 hours. But watching a lecture 2 hours, no, it's not going to happen, right? So sometimes if you can, like, you will watch it for like half an hour, then a break, and another 15 minutes a break, likewise. So you will spend one day, right, to watch this recorded video. So the best thing is stay in these 2 hours, right? So and get these things covered. So I think you can get the most out of it, right? Most out of it. Otherwise, if you are going to think that I'm going to watch the recorded video, no, it's not going to happen, right? Never, right? I mean, some of you can do it, but most of you can't do it. So I'm strongly recommending you to attend the live lectures and get everything covered, so that will give you the most out of it. And the other most important thing, that when you are going to do this, I'm expecting something from you. Like, that means, okay, if you are going to watch this video, I'm always providing you the codes, right? So the first day's code, I have already distributed it with you. I have circulated it with you. So you can download it and you can have the code. So the other thing I'm expecting from you is to, like, go through each and every code, go through each and every implementation that we have done in each day, right? So please walk through them and try to do modification. Now you will see, like, I mean, the best way to learn programming, or best way to learn this kind of coding, is like go through the codes again and do modification and see, okay, what happens, right? So if you are going to come and watch the video, okay, done. And if you are coming on next Sunday without doing anything, no, you are not going to get anything, right? So you are not going to keep this thing in your mind, right? So the best thing is, like, okay, after the lecture, go through the codes and, like, do the modifications and see, like, okay, try to implement the same codes that I have done in the lecture, right? I have done in the session yourself, right? So try to do them yourself, then only you are going to get the maximum out of it, right? So whatever the content, right, I'm covering, I mean the practical content that I'm covering in each day, so you have to go through them again and, like, get familiarized it with, do the implementations yourself, and then only you are going to get the most out of it. So there is some part that I'm expecting from you, right? If you are going to do that, then you will be getting the maximum out of this, right? So if you are coming to the workshop on the next Sunday without doing anything, no, it will be, like, not effective, right? So please go through the materials and try to implement the course that I have already explained and get familiarized with them, and then come on the next day, right? So that's the best method of best way of getting maximum out of this workshop, since we are going to cover lots of things throughout these 5 days, right? Okay, hope you understood. So if you have any questions, as I mentioned, please feel free to ask. So I'm quite happy to answer your questions if you have any, right? Okay, so Python, why we are going to use Python in our implementations, right? So throughout our workshop, since we are actually working with something related to machine learning, artificial intelligence, right? So if you are talking about artificial intelligence, if you come to the practical implementations, like 80% of the practical implementations are done in Python. So it's like this. Now, if you want to build up a software or a kind of a, let's say, web application or a mobile application, I mean software development, so the king will be the Java, right? Java programming language, right? Java, right? So then if you want to do microcontroller programming, robo programming, right? hardware implementations, right? Hardware implementation. So what's the best language that you can use? Any idea from your side? Idea the hardware, robot, mic controlling, or a device solar programming on the programming language. Good, we are getting answers. Very good. Yes, exactly. C++, right? Mic control programming, robots, right? Hardware, right? Embedded systems. Yes, C++ and C is good for that, right? But similarly, okay, when it comes to AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, image processing, the best the best programming language will be Python. So that's why we are using Python. So if you go to the internet and if you search about some implementation, you will see if it is related to AI, most of the I'm not saying all, but most of the majority of it, them are implemented in Python, right? So with Python, we have some modules. In other words, we have some libraries like scikit-learn, TensorFlow, Keras, OpenCV, Numpy, Matplotlib. I think it's some accidentally done thing, right? Is there any requirement to mute? No, right? So it's some accidentally done thing. Okay. Okay, right. So no, thing was like I was muted suddenly. That's why. Okay, anyway. What I was talking about is, yes, so modules, libraries. So these libraries we are going to use. Now, the usage, if you take the usage, like, okay, so scikit-learn will be the library that we are going to use in our implementation mostly. So this is for the machine learning implementations, right? So this library is provided by Google and it's an open source library, scikit-learn. So this will be the library that we are using for our machine learning implementations, right? And as you know, the Python programming language will be the language that we are using, and the Jupyter Notebook is the development environment that we are going to use in our implementation, right? But actually, we are not going to focus on this, but probably in a coming workshop, we will, hopefully we can cover like TensorFlow and Keras. TensorFlow and Keras is used in deep learning. That means neural network implementation. So don't worry about these libraries. In this workshop, we are not going to focus on this. But these three, OpenCV, Numpy, Matplotlib, and Pandas, right? So these libraries are also external libraries in Python. That means what I mean by external. So you have to download it from the internet separately and install it in your computer, right? So what do you mean by Numpy, Matplotlib, and Pandas? So simply these are some helping libraries for our implementation. ඒ කියන්නේ අපි mainly focus කරන්නේ, right? අපි mainly focus කරන්නේ මේක scikit-learn, right? This is the main library. This is the library that we are going to use for our machine learning implementation. But these four and some other modules will be also used. So these are some helping libraries. So when you are going to deal with machine learning, deep learning, neural networks, no matter what, right? These set of libraries always will be there: OpenCV, Numpy, Matplotlib, Pandas. So these are some assisting libraries for our implementation. The main library will be scikit-learn, right? So don't get confused with these things. We will cover these things in detail in our coming weeks, right? Okay. Right. So yeah. So now these are the references. If you want like have a look on the references that we are using, these are the two references that we use for this, our workshop, right? So you can go through them as well, right? Okay. So now we are going to start the Python programming basic tutorial part 1, right? So we have, I think, 5 parts to be covered. So let's see how many parts that we can cover in today. Within 2 hours, but we will do the remaining on next week. And yeah, before going on to that, so we are going to start about the, we are going to start practical implementation. So we are going to discuss the basics of Python now. Before going on to that, if you have any doubt or if you have any concern, anything to be clarified, any issues, you can ask them. Yes. Anything? No, everything is fine. Okay, great. So the other thing is, if you have any doubt, please feel free to ask, right? Okay. Now, the thing is, don't think that I'm going to go through like the very basics, what's the programming language and what we can do using a programming language. No, we are not going to do that, right? The thing is, if it is, I mean, if I'm going to do like that, that will take, I mean, several months, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to assume that you all are having a basic programming knowledge, right? A basic programming knowledge, in the sense, like, I think you have the basic concepts of programming. You know the basic programming concept, like what's a variable, what is an array, what's a loop, how you can implement decision making, what's the function, right? So I assume that you have the basic programming knowledge, right? So if you have the basic programming knowledge, assuming that you have the basic programming knowledge, I'm going to cover these things with Python. So what I have to do here, okay, I have to explain you how we can create a variable in Python, assuming that you know what is a variable. And I'm going to explain you, okay, how decision making is done in Python, assuming you know what's the if condition, what's the else, or what is else if, right? And I'm going to explain how we can implement loops, for loop, while loop in Python, assuming that you already know about loops like for and while loop, right? So likewise, that kind of explanation is done here, right? Okay, so Python is a general purpose, and also it supports object-oriented programming and a high-level programming language. What it mean by high level, you will understand this is like very high level. That means, I mean, at the bottom, there are C++ codes running in Python, right? So Python is a very good language, but still Python use some codes in C++, and C in the bottom. But anyway, that's mean high level, like we are using some implementations in C++, Python is built. So it's quite easy for the user, right? It's not hard to implement like other programming languages, C, Java. It's quite easy since it's a high level. So what I mean by high level, it's quite easy for the user to implement, right? And Python is an interpreted programming language. What we mean by an interpreted programming language is that we have two main types, you know, the compiler and program interpreters, right? Compiling programming languages and interpreting programming languages. So what's the main difference if we compare the compilers and interpreters? So C, they are compiling programming language. That means what? It's going to, the compiler, the executor, going to read the whole code. I mean, the code in the sense like from top to bottom, right? The whole code will be read, and it's going to check for the syntax errors and everything. And if the whole code is okay, then the code will be executed. Then only the code will be executed. Compiler programming language එක කරන මොකද උඩින් නම් පල්ලෙහාටම කෝඩ් එක කියවලා කෝඩ් එකේ මොකුත් errors නැත්නම් run කරනවා. ඒක තමයි සාමාන්‍යයෙන් compiler programming language එකක් කරන්නේ. Right? Interpreter programming language එකක් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද? නෑ, interpreters ලා එහෙම කරන්නේ නෑ. Interpreters ලා line by line තමයි code එක execute කරන්නේ. So the interpreter programming languages simply execute the code line by line. That means that, okay, take the first line, execute it, take the second, I mean, not exactly a line, sometimes a code segment, right? Take the first line or the code segment and execute it. And if there are, I mean, check whether is there any error. If there are no any errors, execute it. Read the second one, right? And check whether any syntax or runtime errors are there. No, if there is no any runtime or syntax errors, execute it. Likewise, segment by segment, it will be executed in interpreter programming languages. So Python is a interpreter programming languages, and Python supports OOP as well. So Python supports object-oriented programming as well. But thing is, it's like C++. Now C++ have both the procedural programming concepts or the sequential programming concepts as well as OOP concept, right? But Java is a fully OOP language, you know. Java is a fully OOP language, but C++ is like it's having both the sequential programming as well as the OOP concept. So Python is similar. It's not a fully OOP language. It's a like a mix of sequential and OOP modules, right? And Python said to be a beginner's language, but I don't agree that since Python is like directly right driving a manual. I mean, sorry, automatic transmission vehicle. එක පාරම අර automatic gear vehicle එක drive කරන්න පටන් ගන්නවා වගේ. කිසිම knowledge එකක් නැතුව, right? Like if you can go through C++, or Java like a basic programming language, or a high level, I mean a low level or a mid level programming language, you are going to get the concepts well. I mean, you are going to grab the concepts well, the programming concepts, right? So it's like, okay, first you are going to go with the manual transmission vehicle. drive කරන්න යන ඉස්සෙල්ලා manual transmission vehicle එකක් drive කරලා ඊට පස්සේ automatic transmission vehicle එකට එනවා වගේ තමයි Python වලට එනවා කියන්නේ. C++, C, Java කරලා Python වලට එනවා කියන්නේ ඒ වගේ දෙයක්. But you can start with Python directly as well, but it's like, okay, without having any knowledge about the gear system and everything, you are automatically coming, I mean, you are directly coming into the automatic transmission vehicle, right? That's quite okay, right? Nowadays, like we hardly use manual driven vehicle, manual transmission vehicles, right? But I suggest like we are going to cover the most of it when you are going to go with the programming language like this, right? Okay, quickly now, where we can use Python. As I mentioned, all the programming languages are application dependent, right? Programming language එක ගත්තාම මේක application dependent. ඒ කියන්නේ එක programming language වලට එක applications තියෙනවා, right? So each programming language has its own applications. As I mentioned, Java is good for software-based solutions, and C++ is good for hardware-based implementations, right? So similarly, when it comes to Python, right? Python, Matplotlib, those kind of things are very good in data science related applications. That means artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning, image processing. And Python is quite used in web framework development, web backend creation, website backend creation, and robotic operating systems. Now, Python is also used in the hardware controlling as well. Embedded systems, robots, right? Robotic operating systems. Python is used, but mainly if you take like the current situation, right? Nowadays, Python is actually the best or the commonly used programming language available for machine learning, image processing, and deep learning. The most popular and the best, right? Understood. So that's why we are covering Python here, right? Okay. So quickly, we will go to some coding. Python variables we are going to discuss. Now, I'm reminding you again, if you have any doubt, don't worry, like we have 160 here. Don't worry, I'm happy to ask I'm happy to answer your questions, right? Okay. Yes, exactly. So if you have any questions, please ask. Otherwise, I'm going to feel okay, I'm just blubbing in front of a monitor, right? So if you have any doubt, please ask them, and I'm quite happy to clarify them. Ask it in English, Sinhala, but don't ask it in Tamil. I can't exactly understand. I can understand Tamil, but I can't exactly give answer in Tamil, right? So that's the case. Yeah, so now we will move on to the practical implementations. Okay, so first we have to discuss about Python variables, right? Python variables. So simply, you know, a variable is a variable is simply a memory location which can hold a value, right? Variable is a memory location which can hold a value, right? So when it comes to Python, Python has main five types of data types that it can hold values in. Python වල තියෙනවා data types 5ක් values hold කරගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So those are numbers, strings, tuples, and dictionaries, right? And as I mentioned, when you are going to create a variable, or when you are going to create a function, or when you are going to create a class in Python, that name, the user defined name, then api variable එක හදි අපි user defined නමක් දෙන්නේ x y value 1 variable 1, right? My function, right? Rectangle class. Likewise, we are going to provide our own customized names for variables, functions, classes, and etc., right? So whatever the customized user defined name used in our codes, they are called identifiers, right? So identifier is a variable, I mean a name used for a variable, function, class, or a module, or an object, right? So thing is, Python identifiers, as the other programming languages, you can use either simple or capital letters when you are going to create a variable, and also you have to like you can't use digits. You can't start the name, the identifier, with digits. ඉලක්කම් දාලා පටන් ගන්න බෑ. ඉලක්කම් දාලා පටන් ගන්න ඕන නම් underscore එකක් දාන්න ඕන ඉස්සරහට, right? So those are very fundamental things when it comes to variables. And the punctuation marks cannot be used in identifiers. These kind of marks cannot be used in identifiers. And the other thing is these are the keywords of Python. That means these cannot be used as variable names or identifiers, right? So these are reserved words in Python, used for several has several definitions. Now, I assume one thing, that you have gone through the video I provided yesterday, right? I assume that you have gone through the video I provided yesterday. So in that video, I explained how to download this Jupyter, how to download the Anaconda Navigator, how to install this Jupyter Notebook, how to write a simple code in Python in Jupyter Notebook, right? So that video covers everything. කොහොමද මේ development environment එක download කරන්නේ, කොහොමද මේ development environment එකේ code කරන්නේ, කොහොමද simple Python code එකක් හදන්නේ, හැම දෙයක්ම මම අර ඊයේ උප වීඩියෝ එකේ explain කරලා තියෙනවා. මම assume කරනවා ඔයාලා හැමෝම මේ වීඩියෝ එක through ගිහිල්ලා තියෙන්නේ කියලා, right? එහෙම assume කරලා තමයි මම මේ implementations කරගෙන යන්නේ. ඔයාලට මේක uncomfortable නම්, right? ඔයාලට මේක uncomfortable නම්, if you feel uncomfortable, that means you haven't gone through the video that I provided yesterday, right? So what you can do, like you can do the implementations today, but please go through that video later, right? Even you can go through that video later, right? And get it covered. Otherwise, it will be quite hard for you. So this is the code that I am using now. These codes are also provided to you yesterday, right? So I think this is what you got last time, as I can remember. I think this one, yes. So what you can do is simply, this is the link that I have provided you yesterday. So you have to go through here and just download it. So all the codes and this is not required, sorry. This is not relevant to you, but the codes are relevant to you, right? So you can download these materials from the location, right? This is the link that I have provided. And the video I have provided yesterday, so it explains everything, how to use the Jupyter Notebook and everything, right? Okay. Yes, so we have a question here, let's see. Okay. Right, so some of you are asking about like, please provide it using in the chat. Yes, let me provide it. I think this one. Yeah. So this is the video. This is the video, and this is the this is the I mean the materials, right? Okay, okay, great, right? So yeah, so now how you can implement codes in Python? Simple, right? If I write a simple code, right? Right. So yeah. So this is how we are going to create a variable in Python. Okay, right? Another variable, right? So don't worry about data types in Python. There is no such a thing called data types in Python. Yes, there is, but no need to mention the data type when you are going to create a variable, right? So now in other programming languages this is an integer and this is a float. So probably you have like use it like int and float like this, right? But no need to do it in Python. And Python simply you don't have any termination conditions like terminators, like semicolons. No need to have terminators, right? So it simply takes a line as a single statement, right? Single statement, right? Data types ne ඒ කියන්නේ integer the float the කියලා කියන්න ඕනේ නැහැ, semicolons දාන්න ඕනේ නැහැ, right? So very simple. So you can check these values printed and see whether what are the answers that you are getting, right? So it's not going to be a matter whether it's an integer or that's a float, right? Python considers these as numbers, right? So that's one of the most important thing. No matter it's a float or no matter it's an integer, those will be considered as numbers. So it's a common thing. It's a number. No not an integer, not a float. It's considered as a number, right? Understood. And the other thing, okay. So this is a character, right? This is a character, or let's say, yeah, this is a character, and this is a string. This is a string. Okay, we have a question. Yeah. Yeah, so this is a string. So the first one is a character and this is a string. Now you will see, okay, what you did was wrong. Why? Now for usual in strings in other programming languages, you have to use double inverted commas, right? In other programming languages, you have to use double inverted commas. But in Python, no matter whether you are going to use single or double, even you can use double here. Double inverted commas මේකට use කරන්න පුළුවන්, single or double. It like considered as the same, right? So single inverted or double inverted commas both considered as strings, right? So in Python, the other most important thing is that in Python you don't have something called characters. No, both characters and strings both are considered as strings, right? Again, Python වල characters the strings the කියලා වෙනසක් නැහැ, right? No difference between characters and strings. Both these things will be considered as strings, right? දෙකම strings කියලා ගන්න. ඒක double inverted not single inverted not කමක් නැහැ. හැබැයි මෙහෙම කරන්න බෑ ඉතින් ඔයාලට. තේරෙනවනේ. එක පැත්තක් double අනිත් පැත්ත single එහෙම දාන්න යන්න එපා. එක්කෝ single එක්කෝ double, right? So either double inverted commas or either single inverted commas. So that's how we are going to create a string in Python, right? String in Python. So characters and strings are considered as strings in Python, right? So Python print, you can use a comma and separate the values. When you are going to print something in Python, you can use a comma, and that simply separates these variables. And if you want like have a separator like a new line, then you have to provide the separator. You have to mention, okay, print A, B, C, D, right? So let me provide some values to let's see, like not A, B, C, D. We will change this to value 1, right? Value 2, value 3, and value 4, right? So here what it simply says, okay, print the values. Now if you print it without any separator, right, this is what happens. It prints it like this. So default separator. So it simply considers a default separator here. Default separator එකක් ගන්නවා space එක. space එක තමයි default separator එක. හැබැයි ඔයාලා separator එක modify කරගන්න ඕන නම් හරි. හැම variable එකක්ම new line එකකින් print කරන්න. So you are going to provide the separator as a new line character, right? So you are going to get it like that. Now it's not only for like new line, you can use anything, right? I mean, okay, use this as the separator, right? Understood? So use the dashed line as a separator. Yes, you can do that. You can use any separator you like, right? You can use any separator you like, right? So what I want to show you some other thing as well here. Now, if you go to another programming language like C or any other language, Java or C++, right? So you can see this is how we are going to do that, right? You have to have a library install, I mean the IO stream or whatever the base library included, and you have to define the main function, and you have to then in the main function you have to provide the boundaries using the you have to define the block, and then the type integer or float, then you have like do it like this. So lots of things you have to include, but in Python quite simple, no need to include those kind of things, right? Understood? So the syntax is quite simple when it comes to Python. So no any terminators, no any such a thing. But the other important thing is that when you are coding in Python, these kind of things are not allowed. Like that means you can't have any kind of unexpected indents, unexpected spaces. No, you can't have them like that. Python makes your lives easy. ඒ කියන්නේ ඔයාලට හරිම ලේසි කරනවා Python ඔයාලට implementation, coding implementations ගොඩක් ලේසි කරනවා. But in return, Python expects something from you. That means you have to be precise, clear, and clean when you are going to code. Right? මොකද්ද මම මේ දැන් කියන්නේ? Now, for example, if you take another language, another programming language, let me quickly change the screen. Sorry, not that one, this one. Okay. So if you are going to implement another code, I mean, in probably, let's say C programming language. Right. So you have to do it like this simply. Right. So you are going to implement, like you are going to include right. You are going to include some blocks. So this marks the boundary of this main function, and this simply marks the termination of this line or this expression or this statement, right? So if you want to print these things like A and B, so this is, you are going to do this, right? Simply. So this prints the value of A and B, right? So this prints the value of A and B simply, right? You have to provide space manually, right? Now this simply shows you the A and B map like this, right? Now my question, okay, so you have a nice syntax. Okay, you have a tab kept here, a tab and another tab, right? So you have these things, and you have these terminators. Likewise, you have lots of things. My question, okay, now what will happen? Is this code going to work? Make code වැඩ කරයිද? Is this going to give the same output as the earlier one? What do you think? Okay, we have answers. Very good. Yes. Okay, most of you say yes, right? Yes, exactly. No matter, it's going to give you the answer. Yes, the same answer, right? That means this programming language no need to have the syntax. I mean, that nice little syntax, the tabs and spaces, no need to have it. Why you are going to keep it? Otherwise, we can't read it. We can't read it without the syntax. without these separations. But for the program, it's not going to be a matter. It will be like executed perfectly. Code එකට කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට තමයි මේක තේරෙන්නේ නැත්තේ මෙහෙම තිබ්බහම මේක කියවන්න අමාරු, right? So for our benefit that we are going to have this kind of a syntax, some set of rules, but in Python, no, right? Python, no, you have to definitely have this syntaxes, right? So you can't even change these things, like, right? No, so you have to be perfect when you are dealing with Python and implementing codes in Python. Okay, so quickly now, strings, the next topic is strings. So I'm quickly going through these topics. So if you have any doubt, please feel free to ask, and I'm quite happy to stop the explanation and answer your questions. Okay, so Python string, when it comes to Python string, so I told you, no matter whether it's a character, that means whether there is only one character, that means one letter, no, it's also considered as a string, right? එක character එකක් වුණත් string එකක් විදිහට තමයි අපි ගන්න Python වල, right? So then also in Python the strings are considered as arrays, right? Strings are considered as arrays. So here I have implemented a string. So what happened, that string will be like implemented as an array, and it has some elements like this. So for example, hello world, simply it's an array of 10 characters, right? So this string, I mean the hello world string, can be identified as a as a array with 10 characters, right? So what we have done here, I wanted to show you a few things here in Python when it comes to strings, what we can do with strings. So we have a string declared called myString, myStr, and the value of that is hello world, right? Hello world. So if you run this, you are going to see it like this. Okay, so when you are going to print the whole myString, this is the output. Okay, you are going to print it at the whole list is printed, and this simply what? It prints the first character. The first character, that means 0. MyString 0 is simply the 0th character, right? That means the first character. So here what it says, 2 to 5. That means it asks you to go from 2 to 4 actually, right? Now this is a very important thing when it comes to Python and most of the programming languages as well. So here like it goes from 2 to 5. Now this means the 2 is the lower limit, lower boundary, 5 is the upper limit, and the most important thing, always upper limits in Python, not only for this case, upper limit in Python will be always 1 less than the given value, right? සාමාන්‍යයෙන් Python වල upper limit එක define කරද්දී upper limit එකේ දෙන value එකට වඩා හැම වෙලේම එකක් අඩුවෙන් තමයි upper limit එකේ value එක තියෙන්නේ, right? So though it says 5 here, right? Though it says 5 here, that means it asks us to go up to 4, right? So this is something very important, and this is something very common in Python. The upper limit, not only for this case, but most of the other cases you will see that the upper limit that you are going to provide will be always 1 less than the value given there as the upper limit, right? So this simply what? It goes from the second element to the fourth element, right? Though it's 5, it goes from second element to fourth element. Okay, so can you guess what happens here? 2 to, now here like the starting value is mentioned, but the ending value is not mentioned, right? So that means, okay, we are asking to like start from 2, but we haven't mentioned the end, right? We haven't mentioned the end. So that means what? That means what? Any idea? You can see, right? So when the upper limit is not mentioned, that means go up to the end of the list, right? From 2 to the upper limit is not mentioned, that means it asks us to go to the end of the array, right? The end of the array, right? And this is simply like not useful, but myString into 2, right? So it's not like it's integer or number multiplication, right? So what it simply does is it multiply the string twice, and you are going to get like the same thing twice, right? So that's how what happens when you are going to perform multiplication with strings. And here like we add a string to another string. So my string plus test, so it becomes hello world test simply, right? So obvious things. So here now what this means, now similar to this one, right? Bit similar to this one, but what's the other thing here? Here we didn't mention the ending value or the upper limit. Here we haven't mentioned the starting value, right? So when the starting value is not mentioned, what happens? Obvious, right? What you are going to see, the value will be started from the 0, right? Once the starting value is not given, that will be the default starting value. That means 0, right? And it go up to 5. So can someone tell me what this means then? Quickly. Yes. Yeah. Exactly, right? So the full string, the whole thing, right? So the starting value is not also mentioned and the ending value is not also mentioned. So that means start to end, the whole array, right? So very simple thing, right? And we have some other things in Python as well, like when it comes to this kind of array indexing. Um, can you guess what means by this? -1. Sorry, not like this, like this. Okay. So what this means simply? Any idea? -1. Any idea? Any guesses actually? Yes, this is the last one, the last letter. Yes, -1 will be the last letter. So why this is important? Like if you don't know the length of the array, like array ke length එක දන්නේ නැත්නම්, like let's say that you are not aware about the length of the array, right? So in that case, the last element can be accessed with -1, right? So that's what it simply says here, right? And yeah, so this is obvious then. The one before the last one, right? So it will be L, right? One before the last one, right? So then what this means? Any idea? Right? So 5 to 1 before the last one, right? So 1 before the last one, from 5 to 1 before the last one. So that will be simply what? From here to here, right? Here to here, simply. Right. So right. Understood. Yeah. Good, right? Okay, now I hope you understood about the variables and strings in Python. So then we are going to move on to the Python input, how to take input in Python simply, right? So it can be simply done using the input command, right? There's a command or a function, a standard function in Python called input. Using this standard function, what you can do is, okay, now when you run this one, you will see the cursor is blinking here, that waits us to enter a value. So once you enter this value, this input command takes it and assign into this value, right? Assign into this variable. So input takes a input value and assign it to this value. And here simply it prints the value, right? It prints, okay, value, and then it prints the numerical value, right? Understood? Okay, so if you enter here, okay, it says value 10, right? So now the other thing is you can give a customized message to the user before entering the value like this. So when you are going to give a customized message, you have to provide it within the parentheses as an argument. So it says simply enter a value for x, right? Enter a value for x and it will be taken here to the x simply, right? So now you can see it actually give us some guidance. Okay, enter value for x. So that means this message is printed here. So then similarly you can enter value, right, like this. Okay, so if I run this code, can you quickly guess me what's the output? The expected output. So we take two inputs like x and y, right? So we take two inputs, x and y, using the input, and we print them simply, x and y, and also we print the addition of x and y. Okay, so let me print 10 and 20. So what will be the expected output? Okay, we are getting answers. 30, 30. So we have 60 here, 116 here. Sorry, 160 here. Yeah. So most of you say 30, but unfortunately, yes, that's the answer you should expect, right? That's the answer you should expect, but unfortunately, you are getting something like this, a weird thing, right? So can someone guess what it simply says? Okay, 10, 20, yes, the addition is done, but what kind of addition is done here, right? What kind of a, yeah. So this is actually, yes, what kind of addition? Yeah, exactly. This is added as strings, right? So 10 is considered as a string, y is considered as a string. So this is simply the string addition is performed here, right? So then you can conclude what? The Python input function takes whatever the value you are going to enter as a string, right? So that's what you can conclude here. Then ඔයා මොනවා enter කරත් වැඩක් නැහැ. See, now it's like some kind of IP address, right? So no matter whether it's a string, float, or whatever thing that you are going to enter, it will be taken as a what? It will be taken as a string. So when you are going to add them, the string addition will happen, right? The string addition simply happens here. Yeah. So what you can do, okay, so in order to get rid of this, what you can do, one thing is, okay, get the values, right? Get the values and convert it to whatever the data type you want. Casting, you can cast it to the integer, and you can cast it to integers like this, right? So this is one solution for this, right? So get the x and y, then convert it like this, right? So this will work now, right? Understood? So it works. But thing is, okay, that works perfectly fine, okay, but here what happens? Yes, any idea? Right. So it says, okay, this is a float that cannot be converted into an integer, right? So you are going to get an error here, right? So you are going to get an error here, right? So this is something obvious, awkward in Python. Now, if you see, like, if you are going to consider, like, okay, the floating part is neglected, right? The decimal part is neglected, and it's going to get the, like, the 10 and 50. No, it's not done here. So it's going to give you an error. It says that it can't convert this string. This is a string. It says that it can't convert this string into an integer. If this is a float, that would be fine. This is fine. This is fine. Yeah, it's converted to 10. ඒක 10ට convert වෙනවා, but here now this is not 10, it's 10.2 and it's string. So it says I can't convert this string 10.2 into an integer due to some reason, right? So what we have for this kind of a thing, yes, you can use float. Yeah, you can use float, but that's not dynamic, right? So you have to always keep an idea about, okay, this is a float, that the input will be float, the input will be integer. So you have to do it like that, right? So you have to do it, that's something not works always, right? සමහරට float වලට වෙනස් කරනවා, සමහරට integers වලට වෙනස් වෙන කරදරයි, right? So what we can do is we have a function called eval, a very versatile function in Python called eval, right? So this eval can be used for this kind of a thing. So it no matter what you are going to enter, it will convert it to the appropriate type, right? It converts it to appropriate type. So what you can do here also, right? So without doing it like this, you can now, you know that this is x and this is equals to x, right? So what you can do, I can without doing it separately, I can do it at the same place like this, right? That means when you are going to take the input, at the same time I'm going to pass it to the eval. So this is x and it will be passed to the eval and then it will be assigned to x, right? The same thing. And the other thing is this eval is bit powerful. It's not something that you think. Eval powerful. So it can evaluate any expression given, right? It can evaluate any expression given, right? See, now I'm going to provide the expression like this, okay? Right? See, now it's perfectly execute that expression. So 10 into 3 is, has become 30. And this 12 plus 5 plus 10 to 7, 12 minus 1, 11. Right? So, right? So the answer is like 41. So can you see the power of the eval function? For example, if you provide this kind of a string, right? So the eval function simply can get it as an expression. Equation expression the eval can simply convert it to a kind of a number, right? So it can simply, so what eval simply does, eval is going to take an expression given in a string and convert it to the, execute and convert it to the number, the result as a number, right? So that's what you can do using the eval. So this is finally how you are going to use, if you want to get like integers, float as input, this is something that you have to do. You have to provide the eval function before taking the value like this. So you have to take the value and take it inside the eval function. So it simply does your conversion simply. Understood, right? Okay. So then we have a small quiz. I think it's quite straightforward thing. Right? Write a Python program to take two input from the user to add two variables called value1 and value2. So you are asked to get two values from the keyboard to value1 and value2 and print their addition, subtraction, multiplication, division, modulus, and exponent. So you are going to use the eval function, right? And get the value from the user. Okay, enter the value 1, enter the value 2. So you are going to get the two values here. And the addition is something like this. Simply add this and show it as addition, subtraction, multiplication, division is also fine. And what it simply says, the modulus. So what do you mean by the modulus? I think you know these things, right? So if you like, if you are going to divide 3 from 2, so it's like 1. So this is what we call the remainder, right? So this is what we call the modulus, the remainder, right? And this one, star star, simply gives you, okay, so if you go like 2, 3, the value 1 and, so it's like this, value 1 into the power value 2, right? For example, example 2 to the power 3. We have a question, let's see. Yeah, prints the remainder exactly. The exponent is simply this. So if you use like double multiplication symbol, so that means like it's the 2 to the power 3 or the value 1 to the value 2. Right? Understood. Okay, so let us enter some values like, okay, what 100, like 8, 3. Right. Right. So this is like a to the power 3. අටේ තුන්වෙනි බලය. Okay. Got it? Great. So that's what you simply simply you can do with this the operators, right? Arithmetic operators, addition, subtraction, and everything, right? So hope you are familiar with this thing. Okay, assuming that, let me go to the next tutorial, the part 2. Right. Okay. Right. So next one that we are going to discuss about arrays, how we can deal with arrays in Python, how to work with arrays in Python, right? So what mean by array? Simply, if you go to another programming language, right? So array is simply a data structure, or you can see a simple kind of a memory location, which can save set of sequence of elements, right? Sequence of elements. Array එකක් කියන්නේ memory location එකක් sequence of elements save කරගන්න පුළුවන් memory location එකක් නේද? ඒ කියන්නේ values ගොඩක් දාගන්න පුළුවන් memory location එකක් තමයි array එකක් කියන්නේ. Right? So array is simply a sequence of a memory location which can save a sequence of values, right? Okay. So in other programming language, the major drawback is that when you are going to declare array, okay, say C, C++, or Java, you have to always restricted with the data type. So if you are going to implement an array with int x, right? Int x, so that means that array can only hold integer values, right? And you know, when an array is declared, right? So array is declared like this. Okay, let's say, I mean, this is bit should be modified like x5, right? X5. And you know, once an array is declared like this, okay, all the elements should be integers, right? You can't include any other thing, either. Integer array එකක් නම් integer විතරයි දාන්න පුළුවන් අනිත් programming languages. I'm not talking about Python, but in other programming languages, if it is an integer array, you can only include integers here, right? Okay, so once you, let's say, okay, you are going to have an integer here like this. So what simply happens here, okay, so you are going to have values like this 10, 20, 30, and 50. So these things are having a specific element number, right? X0, X1, X2, X3, X4, right? So X0 is 10, X1 is 20, X2 is 30, X3 is 40, and X4 is 50, likewise. Understood? So that's simply, I mean, what I wanted to show you is that it gives an index number to each and every value in the array, right? It's going to give you an index number for each and every value in the array, right? Okay. So now the other thing is that, yeah, that's how the array simply works in other programming languages, right? This is how the arrays works in other programming languages, like that, right? And but when it comes to Python, in Python, unfortunately, you don't have something called arrays, right? Unfortunately, in Python, you don't have something called arrays. Right? Python වල arrays කියලා જાතියක් නැහැ. එහෙනම් දැන් මෙච්චර කතා කරේ මොකද්ද? Right? Okay. Yeah, I just explained. Okay, we have a question. Array එකකට දාන්න පුළුවන් උපරිම values කීයක්ද? Right? How many values a single array can hold? Actually, it depends. Now, it depends on your computer, the RAM of your computer, but I can't exactly say, yeah, that's something depend on your computer, as I know, but some limitation is there. I'm not aware about that. I can't, I mean, the thing is, I can't give you exact value. මට එකපාරම කියන්න බෑ මොකද්ද හරියටම දාන්න පුළුවන් value එක කියලා. හැබැයි limit එකක් තියෙනවා. We have a limit, right? And it's also dependent on your RAM of your computer as well, right? So let me check it and let you know. I can't exactly remember about that. If there is a limit or yeah. So okay. So the thing is then yeah. So arrays, no, something called arrays in Python, right? But we have three alternative things in Python similar to arrays, right? Arrays වලට සමාන වගේ තව ಜಾති තුනක් තියෙනවා. Python වල lists, tuples and dictionaries, right? Lists, tuples and dictionaries. So this is something that quite similar to arrays, but not arrays, right? So there's no such a thing called arrays in Python. Arrays වල, I mean Python වල arrays කියලා જાතියක් නැහැ. හැබැයි ඒ වගේ alternatives ටිකක් තියෙනවා, lists, tuples and dictionaries කියලා, right? So we will check a list first, right? We will first check a list. Now this is how we are going to declare a list. My list, right? Now it's like just declaring a variable, right? මම කියනවා Python වල this is the important, I mean this is the beauty of Python, right? So if you want to hold something, right, you can, I mean a variable in Python variables, they can hold numbers, strings, lists, tuples, dictionaries, images, videos, neural networks, machine learning algorithms, soundtracks, email, anything, right? A Python variable can, right, simply hold anything. ඕන දෙයක් එයාට තියාගන්න පුළුවන්, right? So it can simply hold anything, right, when it comes to a Python list, right? So for example, it's like this: 10, 20.5, and a list, sorry, string, a character kind of a thing, yeah, anything, right? But when it comes to other programming language, what's the most, I mean, the different thing that it can hold only a what? The given data type, right? මෙතන x කියලා දැම්මොත් එහෙම x විතරයි hold කරගන්න පුළුවන්, right? එයාට x විතරයි hold කරන්න පුළුවන්, වෙන මොකුත් දාගන්න බෑ, right? But when it comes to a Python list, inside the Python list you can hold anything, right? You can hold anything. It can be a number, a float, anything, right? So for example, now you can do it like this, and you can print it and check the output that you are going to get here, right? So this has the standard definition, like okay, so that means you can access the first element, yeah. Okay, so there's some answer provided by one of the participants, Niroshan. So I will provide that to you all as well, like the maximum number of elements that array can hold. Okay, thank you, Niroshan. Thank you very much. Right. Okay, so here now, yeah. This is simply, okay, prints the first value of the element, right? First value, and it has the standard definition, you know, right? Sorry, -1, okay, the last element, right? Likewise, so you can access values, right? So let me, you can see that the important thing here, that it can hold anything, right? For example, inside the list, now you will see this in our implementations from the second day onwards, right? A Python list can hold an image. A Python list can hold a video. A Python list can hold anything, not only numbers and strings. මේ Python list එකක් ඇතුළට අපිට image එකක් උනත් ගෙනihin දාන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ තරම් Python list advanced, right? So you can simply store anything inside Python, lists, right? Not necessary to be like numbers or strings. No, you can save images, videos, anything inside the Python list, right? So that's the beauty of Python list, right? So keep that thing. For example, I mean, inside the Python list, I can hold another Python list like this. Right? So that means, okay, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. That means the fourth element of this list is another list, right? I බලමු. My list එකේ fourth වෙනි element එක print කරලා. Fourth element. Right? See? So it's also a string, right? I mean a list. Understood? It's also a list. Got it? I got the idea, right? Okay. So that's simply what you refer by a list, right? I mean, so the fourth element. Now, can someone tell me what this prints? The value that you are going to see here. Any idea?
35.
Yes, exactly. 35, right? Sorry. 35, yes, 35. Now, that means what? Okay, fourth is what? This one, right? From that one, I'm asking to print like the first element. Okay, the 0 element is this. 0 element is this, and the first and the second. So you are going to see simply the 35. Understood, right? So then the indexing and slicing in arrays, right? So let me show you something. Okay, so we have declared the list like this, right? So this is something that we have done for strings as well, but I will show you how we can do it for Python list as well, right? So the first one simply prints you the whole list, and this simply prints the first element. Right? This simply prints the first element of the array, right? That means 20, right? That means 20, and here 40. Sorry, 1 to 5. So I told you that the upper limit is always less than 1, right? So 1 to 5 means, okay, 1 to 4, right? So these set of values will be printed, right? And the second one, 2 to the end is not mentioned. So 2 to end, right? Here, the end is not mentioned. So that means 2 to end, right? Here, up to 5, that means the starting value is not mentioned. So that means what? When the start value is not mentioned, 0 to 4, you know the upper limit is always less than 1. And another important thing. Now you may be wondering, okay, you are just explaining everything like, okay, list, tuples, and aren't we doing some practical things like practical implementation? Yes, we do, right? We will do them in our like practical projects when it comes to like machine learning, single character recognition, and you are going to see these things, right? They are when you are going to do our practical implementation. So my target is to just walk you through with these basic concepts, right? So I'm going to go through with these basic concepts and cover everything, and thereafter then you will be like feel comfortable with the Python basics. So then we can use this in our implementations, right? With the theories. So that's the focus of this one. So that's why I'm just explaining these things and getting some basic examples and going, right? Okay, so up to 5 is similar thing, and this is, you know, the last value, right? So it will be like 12, and this is the one before the last value, and this is like 1 to 1 before the last value. So it's like 20, 40, 30, and 21. Now you know, so the same thing applies here, right? So the last element will be always less than the last one, right? So that means it will, okay, this is the second last element, but it will go one less than that, right? One less than that. Understood? Okay, so yeah, right? Okay, so if you want to delete something from a already existing list, right? If you want to delete something, or if you want to assign a new value to an already existing list, right? So what I'm going to do here, okay, so this is my list, and I'm going to make the fourth element of this list to this one, right? So what was my fourth element? The earlier fourth element was this one, 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I made it equal to this list, right? So the updated one is this. තේනවද? දැන් මම fourth element එක update කරනවා මේකත් එක්ක. එතකොට අපිට එහෙනම් conclude කරන්න පුළුවන් අපිට කෙලින්ම Python list update කරන්න පුළුවන්, right? So this simply says that we can directly update Python lists, right? We can just call it by the index number දෙනවා, index number එක දෙනවා, just update that element with whatever the value you want, right? So that's something that you can do directly, right? And the next thing, similarly, you can delete some values from already existing array as well, or already existing list as well, right? So how we are going to do? Delete my list 4. So this simply deletes the fourth element of the list. So let's see. Okay, so you can see this is removed now, right? So you can simply do it like that. So updating and deleting, right? So you can do both updating and deleting for Python lists, right? Okay. Yeah, so we discussed about these things. And the other thing is, in Python list, we have some inbuilt functions and methods. So we will discuss about the inbuilt functions first. So what I mean by functions, that means we have some functions where we can apply lists as arguments. Python වල තියෙනවා standard functions ටිකක් ඒ functions ඇතුළට lists අපිට දාන්න පුළුවන්, right? So we can pass list as arguments to those functions. For example, sum is that kind of a function, right? So what we do, we pass this my list. So this sum function simply gives you the summation of all the elements, right? The sum, right? And another function list. So what do you mean by list? Sorry, length. Length. So length simply gives you the number of elements. The length of the list. Again, elements කීයක් තියෙනවද කියලා. මේකේ 7ක් තියෙනවා කියලා කියනවා. Right? So similarly, we have functions like max, mean, likewise also. Right? So max simply gives you the maximum value of this array, and similarly, the mean gives you the minimum value of this, right? So you can simply use these things in your coding, right? So if you want to get the summation of the elements of the array, you can use this sum. And if you want to get the number of elements of this array, you can use this length, right? So likewise, we have these standard functions where you can use them, right? And do you have any idea here? Okay, so if you have a string list with strings, right? A list with strings, how we are going to get it? The maximum. Here you can see the maximum is physics. Why? Any idea? Physics for the maximum එක උනේ. It makes no sense, right? Is it? What do you think? Quickly. Okay, we are getting some
Length
answers. No, not the length of the characters. Yes, the alphabetical order. So it's simply the alphabetical order. So P is the, like if you know the A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, right? So according to the alphabetical order, this is the the farthest away character, right? So minimum will be the chemistry, you know, right? A, B, C. The first character will be C that you are going to find. Okay. So what happens? The first character is the same. Then how we are going to calculate the minimum? Palaini character. So the alphabetical order, now here I forgot to mention, the alphabetical order of the first character will be considered, right? Only the first character. Alphabetical order ek ganne first character ki. The alphabetical order of the first character is taken, right? Here, so if if you have the same letter, right? So then the second character will be considered. The second character will be considered. right? Got it? Okay. So then Python has some methods as well, right? Functions and methods. So do you know the difference between a function and a method? So method is when it declared with OOP, right? So it's going to consider this list as a object, and this list objects the 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 methods that the list object has. Now, if you don't have the object-oriented programming knowledge, just forget it. But anyway, now here how the functions are called. The function, first you have to call the function and you have to pass the list, whatever the list. That's how we are going to call a function. But when it comes to list, what you have to do, you have to call it like, okay, list dot the function name or the method name, right? List dot method name. So that's how the methods are called. So two different things, function and method. So if you have the OOP knowledge, you probably understand what it mean by a method and a function, the difference between a method and a function, but I'm not going to explain them now here, right? But I'm assuming that, okay, this is the difference. Okay, function, you are going to call the function and pass it, but here you are going to call it like, okay, the list dot, the list name dot, that's how we are going to call it. So append function, so we have 7 here. These are not the only methods available. We have a few others as well, but I'm not going to go I'm not going to go through all. I keep some of them to you, right? I keep some of them to you so you can go through them and understand what has happened, right? So I'll keep it to you. So that's what I told you. I'm expecting something from you. You have to go through these things again, right? Okay, anyway, so I will explain what append simply does. So this is the already existing array. That's called mylist. So I call mylist.append. So that means I call this method and I pass this string, right? So if you now print the updated list, you are going to see that, okay, the earlier the list was like this. Now a one value is appended. So what we mean by appending is simply, yes, append. That's the name suggests. Append simply add the element that you are going to give here, right? The element that you are going to give here to the end of the array, right? So it's going to append it to the end of the array, right? අර array එකේ දැන් මේ දාන value එක array එකේ අවසානයේට add වෙනවා. ඒක තමයි append කරනවා කියලා කියන්නේ, right? And this index function is a very useful one. Now we have the list like this, and my list index 20. So what this means? So it's simply checks where 20 is located. මේ my list එකේ 20 තියනවාද කියලා බලනවා. තියනවා නම් ඒ index එක return කරනවා. Okay, so you can see in my list that we have 20 here, right? So that means, okay, the first element, right, there's a 20, right? So if you provide like 23, that says, okay, 0, 1, 2, and 3. So third element has 23, let's say. Right. So index method simply finds a given value, right? A given value, and it's going to find whether that value is there in the list, and if it is there in the list, it's going to simply return the index correspond to that value. A value එකේ index එක return කරනවා. දැන් මෙතන පොඩි ප්‍රශ්නයක් තිබ්බා. දැන් මේ 20 කියන එක තැන් දෙකක තියෙනවා. Right? 20 කියන එක දැන් දෙකක තියෙනවා. But it's not going to identify each, right? So it says returns the lowest index in the list that object appears. So whatever the value that you passed, the lowest element, again, මේක තියෙනවා මෙතන එක කියලා දෙනවා. මේක බලන්නේ නෑ යා. පළවෙනියටම හම්බෙන එක. Right? The first element that you are going to find. So that index will be returned here. Understood? Right? And the count here simply, right? The count here simply, what the count simply does, right? It counts, right? It simply counts how many 1, 2, 3s are there, right? So you can see a list count 1, 2, 3. So it says 1, 2, 3 is appeared twice in this list, right? 1, 2, 3 කියන එක තැන් තුනක තියෙනවා, right? ඒ කියන්නේ මෙතන අපි දැම්මොත් එහෙම මෙහෙ බලන්න. If I print my list, right? mylist dot count, and if I provide like, okay, let's say 20, so it simply says, okay, 20 is appeared twice. Right? But if you provide like, okay, 12, so 12 will be only one place. They are on one place only, right? So if you have like, if you pass some value that not appeared here, that means count is, I mean, 1000 is not there in your list. That's what it simply says, right? Understood? Okay. Right. So yeah, so that's what it's about count, right? So I discussed about append method, count method, and the index method. So I simply keeps the others to you, right? So you can simply go through this, and the codes are also given here, right? So you can check what it does simply, right? What it simply does, and you can get to know what it simply returns. Right? So I will keep that part to you, right? Okay. So then we are going to go to the next alternative thing available in Python instead of arrays, right? That's tuples. So tuple, this is how we are going to define a tuple. So what's the difference when you are going to consider a tuple and a list? Can you identify a clear difference here? When you are going to compare, I mean, I'm not asking about the difference in the like the theory. No, I'm not asking like if according to the appearance, right? What's the difference between a list and a tuple? The only difference between a tuple and a list. Yes. Yes, exactly. Very good, right? So you can see this is square brackets, right? So lists are square brackets, right? So the lists are square brackets, but the tuples are round brackets. Right? Tuples are round brackets, so the parentheses. Right? So that's the difference. I mean, from the appearance, right? Okay. So let me define something like this, and you can like print it. So like this. So it simply, now can you see? We have defined a tuple like this, and we can print everything like max sum tuple. I mean, like this, we can do everything like this, right? So then up to now, you can't see any difference between a list and a tuple. Yes, right? So we can't, I mean, we can't see any difference when we declare a tuple and a list, right? Since everything simply provides you the same thing, like the maximum summation and everything works fine. But when it comes to something, there's a major difference between tuples and lists, right? The first thing that you can't do with tuples, once a tuple is declared, you can't change the tuple values, right? That means you can't modify the tuple once it declared. Tuple like declare කරාට පස්සේ ආයෙ වාට එක වෙනස් කරන්න බෑ. Right? So that's the main thing when it comes to a tuple, right? So once a tuple is declared, you can't change that. You can't modify that. Right? That's the most important thing when it comes to a tuple, right? Got it? Right? So this append and everything, no, they won't work, right? So tuple is kind of a read-only list. I mean, all the properties, attributes where, I mean, the attributes were there in the list will be there in the tuples as well. අර list වල තිබ්බ හැම දෙයක්ම tuple වලත් තියෙනවා. The only difference is that once a tuple is declared, you can't modify it. You can't add values, you can't remove values, you can't assign values, you can't change values. So simply, it says we can't change values in a tuple once it's declared. So now you may be wondering, so what's the purpose of having a tuple then? Yes, tuples are used for lots of applications in Python, right? So very useful thing. So keep the idea. We will see some practical examples when you are going to implement more codes, right? Okay, so we have a question. Let's see. Okay, so we have a question. Why we are using a tuple? Is it efficient than list? No, not efficient, but this property The read-only property is quite useful in some cases. I mean, lists and tuples are the same, but this read-only property is quite useful in some instances, right? So you will see that I will explain what's the, I mean, what are the usage and what's the advantage of making this a read-only one, right? Right? ලොකු හේතුවක් නෑ ලොකු හේතුවක් නෙමෙයි ගොඩක් තැන්වල අපිට tuples use කරන්න වෙනවා ඒ අපිට list use කරන්න බැරුව tuples use කරන්න වෙන තැන් එනවා සමහර තැන්වල right so I will let you know those things and I will show you those things when it comes right so otherwise tuple and list are quite the same but tuple has the only difference the read only difference and it's useful in several cases right it's quite useful in several cases ඒක ගොඩක් තැන්වලදී අපිට වටිනවා right okay right and yeah so you can't update tuple as I mentioned right you can't update you can't append you can't do anything right but if you if you want to modify a tuple you can do it like this once when a tuple is declared you can convert it to a list right this can be done you can convert the tuple into a list and make a copy right make a copy of this tuple as a list and then you can modify it but the tuple doesn't change right tuple වෙනස් වෙන්නේ නැහැ tuple එකෙන් හැදෙන list copy එක තමයි වෙනස් කරන්න පුළුවන් that can be done right okay so then the last one is the dictionaries are very useful again right very useful in our machine learning implementations dictionaries right so dictionaries I think if you have like used JSON or JavaScript you probably have seen these things I'm not sure whether it's available in Java but anyway dictionary is a very useful type of element when it comes object when it comes to Python right I'm not going to explain anything but let me show you an example right so let's say that we have a array like this or a list like this so you can confirm it is a list since it has square brackets right okay so this is a list so let's assume that the first element is like representing the name of the student and the first one is the maths marks the second one is the physics marks and the third one is the chemistry mark right so let's assume it like that okay so it's going to give you a list I'm going to assume that okay this represents the first one represents the name the second one represents simply the maths mark the third one represents the physics marks and the fourth one represents the chemistry marks simply let's assume right so if you want to print or if you want to access the name right so then you have to keep an idea or you have to keep a track that means okay the 0 element contains the name right 0 element contains the name so you have to keep that thing in your mind right? You have to keep that thing in your mind so you have to keep okay if you want to take the maths marks you have to keep that thing in your mind okay that the first one has the maths marks right for example let's say that you want to calculate the average right so that means you have to think okay you have to you have to keep that thing in your mind okay the first one is the first one is the name and the second one maths marks and the third one physics marks and the fourth one chemistry marks likewise you have to keep a track on this one එලිමන්ට් එක ගැන අයිඩියාවක් වාට තියෙනවා පළවෙනි එකෙන් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද දෙවෙනි එලිමන්ට් එකෙන් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද තුන්වෙනි එලිමන්ට් එකෙන් කියන්නේ මොකද්ද right so likewise you have to keep an idea on that you have to keep a track on that right but the idea of dictionaries right changes it so here to the dictionary we can give a customized name like this right okay so right so now can you see this is how a dictionary is declared one important thing curly brackets right? Curly brackets dictionaries are declared with curly brackets and now you can see the values are separated in a lists as well as a tuple using commas right then the values separate කරන්නේ commas වලින් list tuple හැම දෙයකම right so here also the values are separated using a comma, right? So values are separated using a comma, right? So, but thing is now, okay, if you want to access the value, okay, right? Um, right. So now this is also like the values are separated using a comma. You can see the comma, but you have pairs, right? So values as pairs here, right? So inside, I mean, if you separate these using commas, in between you can see that there are pairs, right? So right. This is the pair number 1, comma, this is the pair number 2, and this is the pair number 3, and this is the pair number 4. So 4 pairs are there, right? So each pair, the first one called the key, the second one calls the value, right? The first one is called the key, the second one is identified as the value, right? So this is key 1, value 1, key 2, value 2, key 3, value 3, key 4, value 4. Understood, right? Key 1, value 1. So the next pair, key 2, value 2. Third pair, key 3, value 3. Fourth pair, key 4, value 4. Understood, right? So now what's the specialty here, right? Now, if you want to access the value, right, you can call it by the key, right? So earlier you can remember, okay, if you want to get the John, that means the name, you have to provide 0. If you want to get the 18, you have to provide it like 1, right? Understood. So here the difference is that you can actually provide the key in order to get the value, right? So you can provide the key in order to get the value, right? You can provide the key in order to get the value. That's what it simply says, right? So if you provide like the key name, then you are going to get the value. Now the important thing here, that no need to keep the index number in your mind. Again, like, okay, 0 has the name, first one, I mean the one has the math, the second one likewise. No need to keep it in your mind, right? No need to keep it in your mind. What you have to do simply is that you have to you can get the value when you call the key, right? Key එක call කරාම value එක එනවා, right? මෙතනත් එහෙමයි බලන්න. Key එක call කරාම value එක දෙනවා මේ. දැන් student maths කිව්වම 80, right? Likewise. Right? Understood? Got it? Right? So that's what you call simply a dictionary, right? So this is what you call a dictionary simply, right? Right. Other thing is the key can be anything. Now it's not necessary to be a string, right? Make a string this is something user defined, right? So this is something that you are going to define. For example, this can be GG, right? So then if you want to access John, you have to give GG here. Right? And okay, let's say this one. I mean, not always need to be strings. Actually, this makes no sense, right? This makes no sense. But what I wanted to show you is, okay, that if you provide it like this, okay, if we want to get the value 86, you have to call it by the key. Right? Okay, so we have a question, let's see. Okay, so we have a question. Can you explain the difference between the .py and the IPython notebook? Yeah. So I actually explained it in the video I just sent you, right? What's the IPython notebook and the python.py, right? But anyway, I will provide you it here as well. So go through the video, and video covers that as well, right? So if you come to a Python notebook, I mean, these are IPython notebooks, IPython notebook. That this is a web-based interactive notebook that we can use for coding, right? So we can implement codes in Jupyter Notebook. So we can keep the notes and the codes as a notebook. That's the purpose of this. So these are especially designed, this Jupyter Notebook and whatever the development environments available in Jupyter Anaconda, right? The development environments available in Anaconda are especially designed for data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning related applications, right? එතකොට ඔය machine learning, deep learning වලටම develop කරපු development environment set එකක් තමයි මේ Jupyter notebook කියන්නේ. එතකොට ඒ Jupyter notebook එකෙන් හැදෙන files තමයි IPython notebook. But the thing is, you can't run these IPython notebooks in other development environments like PyCharm, Visual Studio, right? And ඒ වගේ run කරන්න බෑ, right? You can't run them in other codes. I mean other development environments. But if you want to get the .py version, so what mean by .py? What mean by the .py? Right. So let's say this one. So this is the Jupyter notebook. So let me show you quickly. Right. So this is Jupyter notebook. Now this can be only opened in the Jupyter notebook. That's the some disadvantage. You can't open it using like PyCharm or Visual Studio Code or any other Python development environment. But what you can do, you can simply download it to a raw Python file, .py. So what mean by .py? .py is the raw Python file, like .c, .cpp, .java, right? Likewise, a raw Python file, you can download it from here, download as .py, right? Now, don't think that we need internet for this Jupyter notebook. No, you don't need internet for this one, right? So now what you can do is simply, okay, this is the file that I just downloaded. So you can open it using any other development environment like this. I mean, a notebook. Right? This is a .py file, the .py file of that, right? So what's the purpose of using this Jupyter notebook is that this Jupyter notebook has several features, right? Several dedicated features that we can use when we are implementing codes related to artificial intelligence, machine learning, deep learning things, right? So that's the purpose of using the Jupyter notebook. Otherwise, we have lots of other Python development tools like PyCharm, Visual Studio Code, and we have lots. But the reason of using the Jupyter notebook is that this Jupyter notebook provides us lots of facilities when we are coding, when we are doing implementations related to machine learning, deep learning, and image processing, these kind of things. So that's the purpose of using this. Okay, so you can remember what we did here, right? So the keys and values you can yeah. So okay, in 36 eval valid in lists. What do you mean by 36 is eval? What do you mean 36? I can't get you. So there's a question: is 36 is eval valid in list? I can't exactly get the question. So if you can answer it in a different, I mean, ask it in a different way, I'll probably answer, right? Okay, so yes, so dictionaries, as I mentioned, yes, we can have a customized key, right? So we can have a customized key to a dictionary, right? So as example here, right? You can have a customized name to a list, customized keys to list, right? So no need to remind it like 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You can assign keys and values and keep them. And the most important thing that you can assign any value, right? So it's, I mean, any key, the key not necessary to be a string. Key a හැම string එකක් වෙන්න ඕනෙම නැහැ. Right? Key is not necessary to be a string. It can be any kind of a number as well. Right. So yes, so that's it. And yeah, so those are the dictionaries. And we have a question again. Let's see. Okay, you mean this one, right? You mean eval? The thing is, no, actually, no need to eval it, since it seems like two integers and the integer addition and divided by 3. So no need to use the eval function here. Okay, so the other thing, so if you want to add a new key and value pair, so if you want to assign something like, okay, so let's say name, maths, physics, chemistry, and physics are there, all right? So let's say that we have physics and chemistry like this. So if you want to simply assign, you want to change the value, right? If you want to change the value, let's say I want to change the name of the student. So this is how we are going to do it. You have to get the student, right? You have to get the student, and simply you have to provide, okay, the name key. So you are going to call it by the name, and then change the name, whatever the name you want. Now earlier the name was John. Now you can assign it, right? So the name. Now the idea that you have to get here is, if you want to access the value, you have to access it by the key, right? Earlier you put like 0, 1, and 2, but here you have to use like the key. That's the only difference. Now you may be wondering, okay, what's the reason? I mean, what are the usage of these things? Yes, we have lots of applications. We will see them later, right? Okay, now if you want to add a new pair, new key and value, this is how we are going to do that. So let me calculate the average, for example. For this one, let me calculate the average. Student maths plus students physics plus students chemistry, right? Student chemistry, and simply divided by 3. Right, so we calculate the average. Then what? Let me do something like this, student. Okay, now tell me, is there any key called average? Is there any key called average in our dictionary? Quickly. Average කියලා key එකක් තියනවද? Yes. මෙතන keys ටික පේනවනේ ඔයාලට. Right? So name key, maths key, physics key, and the chemistry key. Right? So we don't have any average key, right? So is it going to give an error? දැන් මෙතන එහෙම කීයක් නෑ නේද? error එකක් දෙයිද අපිට? Average කියලා key එකක් නෑ, right? අපි මෙහෙම කරන්න ගියොත් නම් error එකක් දෙනවා අපිට. අයි average කියලා key එකක් නෑ මේ. So this simply says, okay, right? Key error average. So average is not there, right? So what I can do, okay, now What do you think? Is this going to give an error for us? What do you think? Just assume. Assume kala kiyanna ba? Yes, exactly. So it's not going to give you an error. ඔයා print කරන්න ගියොත් error එකක් එනවා. හැබැයි ඔයා assign කළොත් ප්‍රශ්නයක් වෙන්නේ නැහැ. මොකද වෙන්නේ? Right. So when you are going to assign it, see, a new key and value pair is added. Right. New key and value pair is added. Right. So average and the value is added now. See, now this is how we are going to update dictionary. So if you want to like simply add the key and value pair to a dictionary, this is how we are going to do that. Right. This is how we are going to do that. Okay. Yeah. Good, right? So yeah. So we have some you can read the remaining things, and I want to show you one important thing right here. List 1, list 2. So we have two lists: names, maths, physics, chemistry. So it's like what? This is like what? The keys. And let's say the list 2 has values separately. So the list 1 contains the key separately, and list 2 contains the value separately. Set of values separately. Right? List 1 simply the keys, list 2 simply the values, right? So using those things, combining the list 1 and list 2, you can zip them. You know what I mean by zip, right? Zipping. Zip, you know, right? Zipping. So you can zip these two together, right? And convert it to a dictionary. So then you can get the dictionary like this. So what happens when you have like keys and values separately in lists, you can zip them together and create a dictionary like this. Understood, right? You can simply get it like this, right? Got it? Understood? Okay, great. Yeah. So now please go through these things that I have covered, right? So these are very important. Now I haven't covered everything. Some missing things are already there, so I left it to you. So you can simply go through these things and get them covered and get the knowledge, right? I covered the most fundamental things, so you can walk through these codes and the notes again, right? So you have 1 week, right? Within the 1 week, please go through it and try to cover these things up, right? The things I have explained, right? So the most important thing that we have covered two parts of here, right? So we have like 5 parts to be covered, and we will cover the 3, 4, and 3, 4, and 5, the decision making, loops, and the function. So these are the 3 parts that we have to cover: decision making, loops, and functions. So I will cover it in the coming day, right? And the other thing is that we are going to move to modules as well in that day, right? We are going to move on to modules as well, right? Okay, so okay. So there's a request: do you explain in future sessions about Keras, TensorFlow frameworks, and libraries we use in machine learning and deep learning? Because of some of we are very beginning to research, and we need much idea about this. Yes, sure, I will explain about those modules in future, right? Okay. So simply, as I mentioned, this is, we are stick to this plan, right? So we are stick to this plan. That means, okay. So here we set up the environment and we cover the things, and next day we are going to move on to the Python functions and remaining things, as well as Python modules, and then introduction to machine learning. Like we are going to stick to this plan, right? But what I expect from you is to please go through the materials that I'm covering in each day. So then you are going to concrete the things that you learn from the live session. and you can get them concrete, right? So then you have the good knowledge, right? So you have, I mean, otherwise you are going to forget these things, right? So you have to go through them again within this one week, and you have lots of time to do this and get the idea concreted, right? So next day we are going to move on to the remaining part, like the loops, decision making, and functions, and then we are going to move on to the Python modules, right? Python modules on next day, and yes. Now the thing is, so there's a question: can you can you share with codes that we are explaining with us? Yes, I have already shared these things with you. And the other problem is we need to learn assembly language for enter the no need to know the assembly. Just the Python will work. Only Python. Using Python you can do anything in AI, right? Trust me. Okay, so other thing, okay, regarding the things, the materials, I have provided these things. I hope that you got these things. Now this is the materials. I think this folder is with you. This folder is with you. So what you have to do is, this link is provided to you. So you have to just go here and download this set of materials, and it has everything. It has everything in the sense, it has all these codes that I'm using here. Right? So when you download it, you are going to get it to your computer, right? And the other thing is, yeah, you will probably get this video. I will discuss it with the organizers and let you know. And the other thing, at the video explaining how to install the Jupyter Notebook, the development environment, and everything. I mean, the how to install Anaconda and Jupyter Notebook, that's also given to you, right? So I will ask the organizers to send them to again to you. So probably you can get. So don't worry, all the materials and all the video, I mean, all the materials will be provided to you before the session, right? So that's something I'm going to do before the session. I will provide these codes. So I have done this for this as well. Unfortunately, if you couldn't get it, you will get it after the session ends, right? Okay, so any questions before winding up the session from your side? Anything? Yeah, live session video will be also provided to you. Yeah, I will look forward to that. I will discuss with the organizers, and I will let you know how you can get the live session, the video of the live session. You will definitely get it. Okay, so any questions from you? Yeah, now the Chatura has shared the materials, the day one materials that we use. So you can go there and download, simply that you can download it. Okay, so any questions from your side? No? Everything was fine? Okay, so we have a question. I'm currently conducting a research project on comparison data imputation techniques for PADI field data. We have currently applied linear multiple and polynomial regression and KNN. Could you please suggest more ML techniques I can use? Okay, so the idea now, if you don't have any questions, you can leave, right? So if you have questions, you can stay and clarify them. Okay, PADI field. Yes, get me now. What are you predicting actually? මොකක්ද predict කරන්නේ මෙතන? මොකක්ද predict කරන්න ඕනේ? Yield of PADI, right? Okay. So I suggest you, like, you have, as I can see, you have used only the machine learning algorithm. So I can promise you that deep learning algorithms and like feed forward neural networks definitely gives you more accuracy and more good results, more accurate and precise results if you use a feed forward neural network than k nearest neighbor or linear regression or multiple polynomial regression, right? So the best suggestion is to use a neural network. I mean, if you are currently getting a low accuracy and less accurate results, the best thing is to move on to neural network. So neural network promising you can get more accurate and precise results than using machine learning algorithms. RMSE around 150. Okay, what about the R2 score? R2 score. Yeah. Another question is Python case sensitive? Yes, exactly. It's case sensitive. And another question, R2 is 0 0.6, 0 0.8. I probably think if you use a neural network, you can go beyond 0 0.9, definitely, with the feed-forward neural network. So how many features are there? With me, how many features are there? Okay, so yes, the question, you didn't mention usage of the tuple other than list. Actually, yeah, as I mentioned tuple, these usages applications, I will explain them when we are going to go on to practical implementation. Probably in next week, I will explain these things. So if you have 4 features, get me now, I think, okay, 4 features and 120 examples. I think the data set is quite low. The size is quite low. So you have like somehow find more data, right? That's something again important. More data, since the accuracy and the precision and everything. Yeah. So if you can get more data and switch on to neural networks, you can get more accuracy. Promising accuracy with neural networks. Okay. So any other questions from your side? Yeah. Yes, get me now. You can, I mean, it's not an issue. Even with 10 data, you can apply it to the neural network. But if you move to the neural network, it's not like machine learning algorithms. Neural networks require more data, right? So neural networks, if you are going to switch on to neural network, I can promise you that it will give you a higher R2 score, right? Higher R2 score with higher precision. But the neural network in the other side, it needs more data, right? So 120 won't be enough, but still with 120, you can check it. You can check it using 120. It's fine, you can do it, but from the experience, I know you have to provide more data. Yeah. So I will probably if I have some sample codes, probably I can provide it to you, right? I have some sample codes that I mean to train a feed-forward neural network. I will provide you. If you can contact me, I will send it to you. Okay. Right. So any other thing from your side? Any other questions? Yeah. Can someone from the Lakmal, can you provide my contact details to uh, anyone required?
Yes, I will put them on the WhatsApp group.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks. You will get it, right? Okay, thanks. Okay, welcome. So any other? Okay, right. So happy to see your feedbacks, positive feedbacks. Yes. Okay then. So I think yeah. So you all can leave, and if you don't have any questions, and we'll meet on next week. So please try to attend to the live lecture, since we are going to get the maximum out of it if you are going to get to the live sessions, right? Other than watching the recorded video.
Thank you very much for today's interesting session, sir. Before we wrap up today's session, please feel free to ask and clarify if you have any doubts. I'm sure Mr. Takshila would be pleased to answer them. I think seems like there are no any questions to our participants. So again, thank you, Mr. Takshila, for the valuable knowledge you shared with us today.
Yes,
Ladies
Chatur,
and
yeah. Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you on behalf of the Computer Science Students Association for your active participation. I hope you enjoy the session 1 and stay tuned with the new messages we share with you in our WhatsApp group. Have a nice day.